Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm super excited to be presenting this security risk webinar. So let's get started because we got a ton of content. So this presentation aims to provide an overview of the security risks associated with continuing to run Dynamics GP on-premise. We will begin by examining the lifecycle timeline and its implications for support and security. Next, we will explore major risk categories inherent in on-premise ERP environments. We will then contrast these risks with the security posture offered by Dynamics 365 Business Central, highlighting how cloud-based ERPs mitigate these challenges. Practical guidelines will follow, including a hardening checklist for organizations that plan to remain on GP temporarily, and a roadmap for transitioning to Business Central. By the end of this presentation, participants will understand the urgency of addressing on-premise security risks and tangible benefits of moving to a modern cloud-based ERP solution. So if you thought this was Tax 101, you're at the wrong webinar. This is all about security and the benefits of moving to the cloud. So the longer you wait, the more likely an attack will happen. Dynamics GP has been a trusted ERP solution for decades. And I'm a testament to that. I've been doing this for 30 years. But its life cycle is approaching critical milestones that significantly impact security and compliance. Microsoft has announced that product enhancements, tax and regulatory updates, and technical support will end on September 30th, 2029, followed by the cessation of security updates on April 30th, 2031. This means that organizations continuing to use GP beyond these dates will operate without essential patches, leaving them exposed to vulnerabilities. Even today, GP customers must adhere to the modern lifecycle policy, which requires applying at least one update annually to maintain eligibility for support and security fixes. Failure to comply results in losing access to hot fixes, tax updates, and critical security patches. These realities underscore why businesses must evaluate their ERP strategy now. The risks are not abstract, they translate into operational disruptions, compliance failures, and increased exposure to cyber threats. For finance teams, this could mean inaccurate tax filings. For IT, it means managing unsupported infrastructure. And for leadership, it means heightened business continuity risks. Understanding these timelines and their implications is the first step towards mitigating risk and planning a secure future. What makes GP vulnerable? Customers frequently skip or delay GP updates because of infrastructure updates or customization complexity. Many GP servers still run outdated Windows Server and SQL versions, already past Microsoft security support. This produces a compounding vulnerability structure. Customer sentiment shows that staying on GP is increasingly risky. Encore surveys and external industry analysis show a majority of GP customers plan to migrate within 2 to 4 years due to security support and compliance pressures. Those staying until it stops working face compounding operational and security risk with no escalation path once support ends. Identity and access weaknesses. GP relies on legacy authentication, lacking MFA and conditional access. Out-of-the-box auditing is insufficient, making detecting unauthorized access extremely difficult. Security and compliance requirements are getting stricter. On-prem GP cannot keep up. Modern compliance frameworks require proof of patching, proof of MFA enforcement, proof of logging and monitoring, proof of system hardening, proof of disaster recovery readiness. GP's limited auditing, aging infrastructure, and out-of-support OS SQL stacks create direct compliance failures, especially for PCI, SOX, HIPAA, GDPR, and industry-specific audits. Infrastructure and compliance risks include on-premise environments struggling to keep pardon me, on-premise environments struggling with modern security requirements such as off-site immutable backups, tested disaster recovery, and continuous monitoring. Backup gaps and single site recovery are specifically cited as ransomware risks. That's a hard word to say, ransomware risks. So again, that when we look at the industry information provided to us about ransomware attacks and risks, again, we've got these aging applications, and it's kind of like, you know, when you get a coupon and all of a sudden you tell everyone, hey, there's a coupon available for this. Well, these cyber criminals, when they find a way in, they're sharing that with all the other cyber criminals. So again, when we have these weaknesses, they're being exploited. And you'll hear about this when we talk about some of the case studies that we're going to share with you. On-premise Dynamics GP environments often rely on legacy authentication methods that lack modern security features such as MFA or multi-factor authentication and conditional access. This creates vulnerabilities that attackers can exploit through credential theft or privilege escalation. Furthermore, GP's out-of-the-box auditing capabilities are limited, making it difficult to track user activity, changes to critical data, or unauthorized access attempts. Many organizations have resorted to third-party solutions to meet audit requirements, adding complexity and cost. Over time, role-based access controls in GP can drift, resulting in excessive permissions and segregation of duty violations. These weaknesses not only increase the risk of internal fraud, but also hinder compliance with regulatory frameworks that demand detailed audit trails and strict access controls. Addressing these gaps requires implementing additional tools, enforcing least privileged principles, and integrating MFA for remote and administrative access. However, these solutions are often piecemeal and resource intensive, highlighting the advantages of cloud ERP systems that offer robust identity management and auditing as standard features. And now Chris is going to talk a little bit.
Thank you very much, Tracy. So again, my name is Chris Doucette. I'm the technical support specialist here at Encore, and I'll cover some of these more technical details. So one of the most pressing risks for on-premises Dynamics GP environments is patch and vulnerability exposure. Organizations often delay or skip updates due to concerns about breaking customizations or integrations, leaving known vulnerabilities unpatched. This issue is compounded again by aging infrastructure. Many GP deployments still run on operating systems like Windows Server 2012 and SQL Server 2012, both of which have reached end of life. Even Windows Server 2016 is in the extended support phase of life, which will end on January 12th, 2027. So a very short time for that one. These unsupported platforms no longer receive critical security updates, creating an expanding attack surface for cyber criminals. In addition, the complexity of GP environments with multiple ISV add-ons and custom code further discourages timely patching. The result is a system increasingly susceptible to exploits, malware, and ransomware attacks. From an audit perspective, failure to maintain current versions can lead to findings that impact compliance certifications. To mitigate these risks, organizations must prioritize regular updates, upgrade underlying infrastructure, and implement robust vulnerability management practices. However, these measures require significant IT resources and ongoing vigilance, which many businesses struggle to maintain, making the case for a cloud-based alternative even stronger. So some of the bad actors is ransomware threats and infrastructure weaknesses are increasing. Across GP customer conversations and the on-premises community, repeated risks appear. Ransomware targeted SQL backups stored on the same network, weak perimeter security on aging firewalls, no immutable backup strategy, and no testing their recovery plans. decentralized file storage, and inconsistent access controls. Ransomware tactics target backups. Immutability and testing and recovery are rising KPIs. In 2025, studies showed exploited vulnerabilities, phishing, and stolen credentials continued as top routes. Encryption success rates are falling where firms block earlier and test restores. But backup use fell and ransom payments remain high in enterprises. NIST's 2025 draft profile and industry guidance emphasize immutable, off-site worm backups, segmentation, and frequent recovery testing as standard. Worm is your write once, read many. So when a backup is created, the contents of that backup under no conditions can be changed, even if you wanted to. I believe we're on slide 10. So legacy ERP equals ransomware targets and blind spots. Legacy systems, like GP, are high-value assets and often overlooked, making them attractive targets for ransomware or data exfiltration. Many organizations prioritize protecting only laptops, email, and cloud apps, leaving ERP systems underprotected despite holding financial and customer data. ERP breach incidents and targets. 64% of organizations using on-premises solutions reported at least one ERP system breach in the past 24 months. Among these breaches, data compromised included sales at 50%, HR was breached 45% of the time, customer personally identifiable information was 41%, intellectual property 36%, and financial data 34%. A high breach rate. Nearly 2/3 of ERP users experienced breaches recently. These breaches have a major cost. Breaches average millions in losses. Ransomware is accelerating. Attackers are increasingly focusing on ERP systems. Persistent internal configuration issues, systematic misconfigurations, internal threats, and vulnerability gaps consistently lead to breaches. Now we have two different real-world examples. So let me walk you through one that really underscores why on-premises GP environments are so vulnerable today. A longtime GP customer was hit by a ransomware attack that ended up encrypting 29 GP databases. Every single one of their GP databases was locked, and the organization was essentially paralyzed. They couldn't process transactions, they couldn't access financial data. Operations came to a complete standstill. What made the situation even worse was that their backups weren't in a good state. The only viable backups they had were more than a year old, which meant they were facing massive data loss. Because the databases were corrupted, recovery wasn't as simple as restoring from backup. It turned into a 5-month recovery effort involving forensic data repair, salvaging what we could, and rebuilding missing information manually. Even after all that work, there were still data gaps. This wasn't just an IT inconvenience, it impacted financial reporting, processes, timelines, and team productivity for months. The big takeaway here is that without tested, isolated, and up-to-date backups, a ransomware incident on GP can go from a security event to a full-scale business crisis. These kinds of risks are exactly why customers are reevaluating their on-prem strategies and looking toward more resilient cloud-based options where backup, recovery, and continuity are built in. Now let's look at another real-world example. And this one shows just how quickly things can go wrong, even from something as simple as a single phishing email. In this case, an employee received what looked like a routine message asking them to verify their payroll information. Nothing unusual on the surface, but when they clicked the link, it triggered ransomware that encrypted the entire Dynamics GP environment, not just a database or two, but the whole system. This happened because the attacker was able to capture credentials and move laterally without much resistance. It's a reminder that you don't need a highly sophisticated attack for things to unravel. Sometimes all it takes is one person clicking one bad link. A few key lessons came out of this incident. First, phishing is still one of the most effective and dangerous attack vectors, especially for on-prem environments that don't have modern identity protections in place. Second, this case showed that traditional backups aren't enough. You need backups that are isolated, tested, and updated frequently. Too many teams assume backups are fine until the moment they need them. That's when they discover gaps, corruption, or missing data. Finally, the recovery process wasn't quick. As with many ransomware incidents, getting back online took a long time and caused major process disruptions. When the entire GP environment is encrypted, you're not just dealing with IT downtime, you're dealing with operational paralysis. So the takeaway here is simple. Phishing defenses, MFA, endpoint protection, and tested backups are absolutely essential. And for many organizations, these protections are a lot easier to achieve and maintain when they move away from on-prem infrastructure and into a modern cloud ERP environment. Traditional backups aren't enough. They must be tested, isolated, and frequently updated. Untested assumptions, example of that being that backups are actually working, often lead to revelations of data gaps post-incident when it's too late. Phishing remains a primary attack vector, with on-prem systems defenseless once credentials are compromised. And the recovery timeline is long and disruptive, often stretching months and causing irreparable process interruptions. And I'll
Awesome.
turn the rest of it back to you, Tracy.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. That's a really eye-opening. You know, I'm sure we've all got those kind of interesting emails where we're not quite sure, you know, your boss is saying, hey, can you process these gift cards, or can you do this? Or, you know, sometimes it seems very true. I know I've often asked our IT, is this a real email or is this, and we do that. We test internally, like the IT team will send out emails to us to see if we will click on the link. But you know, they never tell us who actually clicked on the link. I don't think I have, but maybe I have, I don't know. Maintaining on-premise ERP like Dynamics GP places significant demands on IT teams to manage infrastructure security backups and disaster recovery. Many organizations lack the resources to implement proactive monitoring and threat detection, leaving them vulnerable to breaches and downtime. So again, we talked about this earlier, backup strategies are often limited to a single site storage, which is inadequate against ransomware attacks that target shared drives and SQL databases. We have a lot of content today, so I'm going to just skip over some of my notes. So these challenges underscore the operational fragility of on-premise systems and escalating costs of maintaining security and compliance. Transitioning to a cloud-based ERP mitigates these risks by delivering automated updates, built-in resilience, and continuous monitoring, reducing the burden on internal teams while enhancing security posture. Cloud ERP provides built-in continuous enterprise-grade security, automatic zero downtime security patches. Cloud ERP removes the manual error-prone time-consuming patching cycle entirely. Modern identity protection, Azure Active Directory integration enables MFA, continual access, centralized role governance. These capabilities are impossible to replicate natively in GP. Continuous monitoring and threat detection. Microsoft's cloud includes 24/7 monitoring, anomaly detection, and global compliance certifications that exceed what most small and medium-sized businesses can implement on-prem. Built-in disaster recovery. Business Central offers globally global redundancy, and high availability. On-premise GP environments rely on customer-managed backup strategies, often incomplete. We're talking about all cloud ERPs, but specifically today I'm talking about Dynamics 365 Business Central, which offers a fundamentally different security model compared to on-premise ERP solutions. As a cloud native solution, it provides automatic updates and patches, eliminating the risk associated with manual upgrade cycle. Identity management is integrated with Azure Active Directory, enabling advanced features such as MFA, conditional access, and role-based security. These capabilities significantly reduce the likelihood of unauthorized access and credential compromise. Business Central also benefits from Microsoft's enterprise-grade security infrastructure, including continuous monitoring, threat detection, and compliance certifications across global standards. Disaster recovery and high availability are built into the platform, ensuring resilience against outages and data loss. For organizations concerned about compliance, Business Central simplifies adherence by delivering timely tax and regulatory updates without user intervention. These advantages not only strengthen security, but also reduce operational overhead, allowing businesses to focus on growth rather than infrastructure maintenance. By moving to Business Central, companies gain a proactive security posture that evolves with emerging threats, positioning them for long-term success in a digital-first world. When comparing Dynamics GP and Business Central from a security perspective, the differences are stark. GP requires manual patching and adherence to the modern lifecycle policy, which Business Central delivers Business Central delivers updates automatically as part of its SaaS model. Identity and access controls in GP are limited, often necessitating third-party tools for MFA and auditing, whereas Business Central integrates these features natively through Azure AD. Backup and disaster recovery in GP depends on local infrastructure and IT resources, creating variability and risk, while Business Central offers built-in resilience and global redundancy. Compliance risk is not abstract. Policies increasingly require that the controls Cloud ERP offers by default. Business Central security and AI posture is becoming a key switchover driver. BC's layered security, Entra authentication, RBAC, encryption, telemetry, audit hooks is documented by Microsoft and aligns natively with enterprise identity governance and conditional access. That's a lot to take in. Planning to move to Dynamics 365 Business Central involves several strategic steps. Begin with a migration assessment to evaluate current GP configurations, customizations, and data requirements. Encore offers partner-funded assessments that provide a functional review to identify opportunities for process improvement. Next, develop an implementation plan that includes phased workloads and leverages Microsoft's cloud migration promotion, which offers dual use rights and price predictability during transition. Address historical data by migrating it to a secure data lake, enabling read-only access through tools like PopDoc while reducing reliance on legacy servers. Training and change management are critical to ensure user adoption and minimize disruption. Finally, schedule cutover activities and post-go live optimization to stabilize operations. These steps, supported by Encore's expertise and Microsoft incentives, help organizations reduce risk, control costs, and achieve a secure modern ERP environment that aligns with future business needs. For organizations planning to remain on Dynamics for the next 6 to 12 months, implementing a hardening strategy is essential to reduce risk. Key actions include applying the latest GP 18.x update, so the modern lifecycle policy, and maintaining annual update cadence to retain support and security patches. Upgrade underlying infrastructure to supported versions of Windows Server and SQL Server, and enforce network segmentation to limit exposure, implement multi-factor authentication for VPN, RDP, and administrative accounts, and review user roles to ensure least privilege access. I'm going to just jump ahead a little bit here. Keeping Microsoft Dynamics GP and its underlying infrastructure fully patched is the first and most critical step in hardening an on-premise ERP environment. Organizations should apply all available GP hotfixes and security updates as soon as they are released, since these patches often address vulnerabilities that attackers actively exploit. Beyond GP itself, it is essential to maintain current patch levels for SQL Server, Windows Server, IIS, SSRS, and any related components, as these systems form the backbone of GP operations. Neglecting these updates can leave the environment exposed to privileged escalations, remote code execution, and data exfiltration attacks. Additionally, third-party add-ons and ISV modules integrated with GP must be updated regularly to prevent compatibility issues and security gains. Dynamics GP uses a role-based security model, but default configurations often grant excessive permissions that can lead to unauthorized access or accidental data changes. To harden the system, organizations should avoid using the default power user role, which provides unrestricted access across all modules. Instead, adopt the principle of least privilege by assigning users only to the positions necessary. Additionally, segregation of duties should be enforced to prevent conflicts that could enable fraud or data manipulation. For example, the same user should not have the rights to both create vendors and process payments. I've been talking so long, our time is almost up, but again, you'll get all of this afterwards, so I'll quickly go through the last few slides. Inactive or orphaned accounts represent a significant risk in any ERP environment, including Dynamics GP. These accounts often remain enabled long after employees leave the organization or roles change, creating an easy entry point for attackers. A comprehensive hardening strategy requires regular audits of all GP, SQL Server, and Active Directory accounts and disable unused credentials. So those things are all important, of course. SQL Server is the foundation of Dynamics GP, and its security posture directly impacts the integrity of financial and operational data. To harden SQL Server, organizations should disable or rename the default SA account and enforce Windows authentication wherever possible. Administrative privileges should be restricted to a minimal set of trusted users, and role-based access should be applied to database objects. We've talked a lot about backup strategy, so again, making sure you address all that. So again, we've got some great advice on checking your backups and making sure that they're valid. Network and server hardening is a critical component of securing Dynamics GP. Access to GP should be restricted to internal networks or through VPN, secure VPN connections. Exposing GP ports to public internet is a severe risk. So lots of great information there as well. Phishing remains one of the most common attack vectors for compromising Dynamics GP environments. A single malicious email can lead to credential theft. So again, multi-factor authentication should be enforced for all accounts accessing GP, particularly administrative and financial roles. Endpoint detection and response solutions should be deployed on all devices that connect to GP systems. Microsoft security solutions with advanced threat protection can block malicious attachments and links before they reach end users. By combining user education with technical controls, businesses can significantly reduce the risk of phishing-induced compromises and maintain integrity of their ERP environment. So it's just a quick chart, just so you can see, hey, here are the risk areas we talked about, what's kind of happening in your GP world, and what you can look forward to in a cloud ERP solution. So again, you've got that for your reference later on. Different roles within the organization have distinct responsibilities in addressing GP security risks. Finance and payroll teams should confirm year-end update status, review and audit requirements, and prepare for enhanced workflows in Business Central. GP users need to stay informed about update schedules, and report performance issues linked to aging infrastructure. Operations and leadership should define continuity and compliance objectives, approve risk reduction strategies, and allocate resources for transitioning. IT teams must inventory operating systems, SQL versions, and ISV dependencies, enforce MFA, schedule backup and restore tests, and lead migration assessments. By aligning these actions across roles, organizations can create a cohesive plan that mitigates immediate risks while positioning for long-term success. Clear communication and collaboration are essential to ensure that every stakeholder understands their role in safeguarding the business. Encore provides a suite of resources to assist organizations in navigating the transition from Dynamics GP to Business Central. These include comprehensive e-guides that outline migration options, timelines, and best practices, as well as webinars comparing functionality and security between GP and Business Central. Clients can also access Encore-funded migration assessments through Encore, which deliver actionable insights and tailored recommendations. Additionally, Encore offers tools for historical data management, such as PopDoc, integration, and guidance on leveraging Encore programs to reduce cost and risk. By engaging with these resources, organizations gain clarity, confidence, and expert support throughout their modernization journey. For more information, visit Encore's Resource Hub or contact our team to schedule an assessment and begin planning your secure ERP future. All right, as we wrap up, let's talk about what moving forward actually looks like. For a lot of GP customers, the transition to Business Central can feel like a big step, but it doesn't have to be overwhelming. The most important thing you can do right now is simply start the conversation. Reach out to your account manager so we can collaborate on a roadmap that fits your business, your timelines, your goals, and your constraints. This isn't a one-size-fits-all journey. It's really a collaborative process. The good news is that there are promotions and programs available from both Microsoft and from Encore that can help you reduce cost and make the transition smoother. Things like Bridge to the Cloud can give you a price protection and dual use rights, so you don't have to make the move tomorrow or take on unnecessary risks. We also encourage you to schedule a transition assessment. This is where we dive into your environment, look at customizations and integrations, and get a clear picture of what your path forward would look like. It's a low barrier way to get clarity. Another great step is to explore the ROI tools. These help quantify the financial impact, cost savings, reduced risk, productivity gains, so that you can build a solid business case internally. And finally, don't forget about the office hours for GP. And there's lots of them recorded, so you can go back and watch the ones that we've done in the past. These are open, supportive sessions where you can ask questions, get guidance, and stay informed as things evolve. The key message here is you don't have to navigate this alone. We're here to partner with you, help you understand your options, and build a plan that makes sense for your organization. The future is more secure, more modern, and more connected, and we're excited to help you take the next steps.